The morning sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the fields of New Seoul Colony. Governor Hyun-woo Park stood on his office balcony, watching the farmers tend to their crops. 2 years had passed since the first human ships landed on this world, and the colony was growing fast. Children played in the streets while their parents worked in the mines and factories. Life was good here. Hyun-woo did not know that death was coming from the stars. 300 light-years away, Admiral Vextar of the Galactic Trade Confederation sat in his command chair aboard the battleship Dominion. His 4 eyes studied the report on his screen. Another primitive species had started a colony without asking permission. The humans of Earth had sent ships to a world in Confederation space. This could not be allowed. The Confederation had ruled this part of the galaxy. For 300 years, they kept the peace by showing strength. When a new species tried to expand, the Confederation would send a fleet. The fleet would arrive, show its power, and the new species would submit. It always worked. Vextar had done this many times before. His third enforcement fleet had crushed the hopes of dozens of species. 200 warships strong, armed with plasma cannons and gravity bombs, his fleet was a weapon of fear. No species could stand against such power. "Set course for the human colony," Vextar ordered. His voice was cold, like space itself. "It is time to teach these humans their place." Back on New Seoul, Commander Ji-Hai Kim walked through the small military base. She commanded 12 patrol ships, the only defense the colony had. The ships were fast but lightly armed. They were meant to stop pirates, not fight a war. Ji-Hai knew about the Confederation. Every human colony did. The reports from Earth's scouts painted a picture of a vast empire that crushed anyone who got in their way. But New Seoul was far from the main trade routes. She had hoped they would be left alone. That hope died when her radar officer called out in alarm. "Commander, large fleet dropping out of hyperspace, 200 ships." Ji-Hai ran to the command center. The screens showed a sight that made her blood run cold. Massive ships filled the space above their world. Each one was 10 times larger than her biggest patrol ship. Weapons that could destroy cities pointed down at the colony. "Open a channel to Governor Park," Ji-Hai said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. "Tell him we have visitors." Governor Hyun-woo Park received the call while he was meeting with the Farming Council. The news hit him like a physical blow. He had always known this day might come, but he had hoped for more time. The colony was still young and weak. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. They haven't made contact yet." Hyun-woo closed his eyes and thought. The colony had no real weapons. The patrol ships were brave but useless against such a force. If the aliens wanted to destroy New Seoul, they could do it in minutes, but they hadn't attacked yet. That meant they wanted something. Admiral Vextar let the humans wait for 6 hours. It was part of the process. Let them see the fleet. Let them count the ships. Let fear grow in their hearts. Fear made negotiations easier. When he finally opened communications, his image appeared on screens across the colony. Vextar was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 red eyes. His uniform was covered in medals from conquered worlds. "Humans of New Seoul," his voice boomed through every speaker. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Galactic Trade Confederation. You have built a colony in our space without permission. This is against Confederation law." Governor Park appeared on his own screen. He looked calm, but Vextar could see the fear in his eyes. Good. Fear was useful. "Admiral, we were not aware that this system belonged to the Confederation. Our surveys showed no signs of intelligent life." Vextar laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "All systems in this sector belong to the Confederation. Ignorance is not an excuse. You have 3 choices, human. Submit to Confederation rule and pay the protection tax. Accept permanent military oversight of your colony, or face the consequences." "What kind of consequences?" Park asked. Vextar gestured, and one of his ships fired a plasma blast into an empty part of space. The energy beam was bright enough to be seen from the planet's surface. It could have destroyed the entire colony. That kind of consequence. You have 72 hours to decide. The transmission ended, leaving the colony in shocked silence. Governor Park called an emergency meeting. The colony's leaders gathered in the council chamber, their faces grim. Commander Kim reported that her ships were ready to fight, but everyone knew it would be suicide. "We need to contact Earth," said Dr. Sung-Min Han, the colony's chief scientist. "Maybe they can help." "Earth is 47 light-years away," replied engineer Bo-Ra Lee. "Even with our fastest ships, it would take months to get there." "We don't have months. We have something better than ships," Dr. Han said quietly. "We have the quantum communicator." The quantum communicator was New Seoul's most advanced piece of technology. It used quantum entanglement to send messages instantly across any distance. Earth had given one to each colony for emergencies. This was definitely an emergency. Governor Park wrote the message himself. It was short and simple. "First contact with hostile alien force. 200 warships in orbit. Demand submission or will destroy colony. Request immediate assistance. Time critical." The message traveled instantly across 47 light-years of space. On Earth, in the depths of the Solar Defense Command, alarms began to sound. Admiral Vexatar did not know about quantum communication. His species had never developed the technology. As far as he knew, the human colony was completely alone. Earth might not even know what was happening until it was too late. He had made this same mistake many times before. Other species had called for help, but help never came fast enough. By the time their home worlds responded, the Confederation fleet was already gone, and another species had learned to obey. But humans were different, though Vextar did not know it yet. On the second day, Vextar invited Governor Park aboard his flagship. The governor came alone, as requested. The alien ship was huge and cold, filled with the sound of humming machines and marching feet. Vextar's office was designed to intimidate. The walls showed images of conquered worlds. Trophies from defeated species lined the shelves. The admiral sat behind a desk made from the armor of a destroyed battleship. "Have you made your decision, human?" Vextar asked. "We need more time," Park replied. "This is a big choice for our people." Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed. "Time is not something you have. My patience is limited. Just one more day. Please." The admiral considered. One more day would not matter. The human colony was not going anywhere. His fleet controlled the space around the planet. Even if the humans tried to run, his ships would hunt them down. "One day," Vextar said, "but if you try to deceive me, I will turn your pretty colony into ash." Governor Park bowed his head. "Understood." As Park left the alien ship, he touched the small device hidden in his jacket. The quantum communicator had been sending updates to Earth every hour. He did not know if help was coming, but he had to believe. The alternative was too terrible to consider. That night, the people of New Seoul looked up at the stars. The alien fleet hung above them like a sword ready to fall. Children asked their parents when the bad ships would go away. Parents had no answers to give. Commander Kim walked among her pilots. They were good people, brave people. They were ready to die fighting if needed. But 12 ships against 200 was not a battle. It was a sacrifice. "Stay ready," she told them. Something might change. She did not believe her own words, but hope was all they had left. In space, Admiral Vextar reviewed his fleet's status. Everything was perfect. His ships were in position. His weapons were charged. His plan was simple and had worked many times before. Tomorrow, the humans would submit or die. It did not matter which they chose. The Confederation would win either way. What Vextar did not know was that his message of conquest had already been answered. Across the galaxy, in the Sol system, the greatest military force in human history was preparing to move. The Third Enforcement Fleet had crushed many species, but they had never faced humanity before. They were about to learn the difference. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, Fleet Admiral Tae-Young Lee stood before the largest display screen in human space. The Solar Defense Command Center buzzed with activity as hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Red lights flashed on every console, and the air hummed with tension. The quantum message from New Seoul had arrived 18 hours ago. 18 hours since humanity learned they were not alone in the universe. 18 hours since they discovered that the galaxy was a dangerous place. Admiral Lee was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his early days as a fighter pilot. He had spent 40 years in the Earth Navy, fighting pirates and rebels in the outer colonies. But this was different. This was first contact with an alien species, and they were hostile. "Status report," Lee commanded. Colonel Jun Seo Park stepped forward. He was the head of fleet operations, a sharp man who knew every ship in the human navy. "Admiral, we have confirmed the location of the alien fleet. 200 ships, as reported. They are holding position above New Seoul, waiting for our colonists to surrender. What do we know about their capabilities?" Dr. Yoon Jung Choi approached the display. She was the director of xenological warfare studies, a woman who had spent 20 years studying alien technology and tactics. Most people thought her job was useless since humans had never met aliens before. They were wrong. Based on the energy signatures our colony detected, their ships use plasma-based weapons and some form of gravity manipulation. Their technology appears to be roughly equal to ours, maybe slightly more advanced. But, Admiral, there's something else? Lee turned to face her. "What? This isn't their first time doing this. The way they position their fleet, the timing of their ultimatum, the demand for submission. This is a standard operation for them. They've done this before, many times." The words hit Admiral Lee like a punch to the stomach. These aliens had conquered other species. They had a system for it. They came with overwhelming force, demanded surrender, and destroyed anyone who refused. It was efficient and cruel. "How many species do you think they've conquered?" Lee asked. "Based on their confidence and organization? Dozens, maybe more." Across the command center, President Min Ho-yoon was meeting with the Emergency Council. The president was a former general himself, a man who understood the weight of the decision they faced. Around the table sat the leaders of Earth's government and military. "What are our options?" President Yoon asked. Defense Secretary Hai-Rin Kim spoke first. "We could try diplomacy. Send a message to these Confederation leaders, explain that this is a misunderstanding." "With respect, Madam Secretary," Admiral Lee interrupted. "They didn't come to talk. They came to conquer. Diplomacy won't work against someone pointing a gun at your head." General Chang Woo-seo, head of ground forces, leaned forward. "What about evacuation? Can we get our people out?" "Not all of them," replied Colonel Park. "We might save a few thousand, but the colony has 50,000 people. Most would be left behind." President Yoon's face was grim. "That's not acceptable. We don't abandon our people." "Then we fight," Admiral Lee said simply. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. 50,000 colonists were being held hostage by an alien fleet. If Earth fought and lost, those people would die. If Earth didn't fight, they would become slaves. Dr. Choi cleared her throat. "There's something else you need to know. Something about Earth's defense doctrine." She activated a holographic display that showed the solar system. Hundreds of ships appeared on the screen, spread across multiple star systems. The officials stared in shock. For the past 30 years, since we developed faster-than-light travel, Earth has been preparing for this exact situation. We assumed that any alien species we encountered would be hostile. We prepared accordingly. Admiral Lee nodded. Project Deep Shield. 11 full battle fleets hidden throughout human space, each fleet specialized for different types of warfare. The aliens think they're dealing with a single isolated colony. They have no idea what they're really facing. President Yoon studied the display. "How confident are you that we can win?" "Against their current fleet?" "Very confident. But this won't end with one battle. If we destroy their ships, more will come. We need to be ready for a long war. Or, Dr. Choi said quietly, we need to win so decisively that they never want to fight us again." The president made his decision. "Admiral Lee, you have authorization to deploy the first expeditionary fleet. Bring our people home." Admiral Lee saluted. "Yes, Mr. President. But, sir, I recommend we prepare all 11 fleets for deployment. If we're going to do this, we do it right." 2 hours later, Admiral So-young Kang received her orders aboard the battleship Incheon. She was Earth's most decorated naval officer, a woman who had never lost a battle. Her fleet consisted of 150 ships, the newest and most powerful vessels in the human navy. The first expeditionary fleet was a thing of beauty. Sleek destroyers that could outrun anything in space. Massive dreadnoughts armed with fusion lance weapons that could cut through any armor. carrier ships filled with fighter craft piloted by the best humans had to offer. But the real secret was the technology. While the aliens had been conquering primitive species, humans had been pushing the boundaries of science. Adaptive shields that could absorb any energy attack, quantum computers that could predict enemy movements, weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Kang stood on her bridge, watching her fleet prepare for the jump to hyperspace. Around her, the finest officers in the human navy worked with quiet efficiency. They knew what was at stake. "Fleet status?" she asked. Captain Dong-hyun Lim, her tactical officer, responded immediately. "All ships ready for jump, Admiral. Weapons charged, shields online. Fighter squadrons prepared for launch. Communications with New Seoul? Quantum link established. We're receiving updates every hour. The aliens are still waiting for an answer." Admiral Kang nodded. The timing had to be perfect. They needed to arrive before the aliens lost patience, but they also needed to be ready for battle. There would be no second chances. Signal the fleet. Begin jump sequence. One by one, the ships of the first expeditionary fleet vanished into hyperspace. They would reach New Seoul in 36 hours. The aliens would never see them coming. Meanwhile, deep in the asteroid belt, the other 10 fleets began to move. Admiral Jae-won Song's Second Fleet, masters of electronic warfare and stealth operations. Admiral Hae-min Park's Third Fleet, heavy assault specialists with ships designed to crack planets. Each fleet had its own mission, its own specialty. They spread out across human space, taking positions near hidden jump gates that could carry them anywhere in the galaxy. Earth was not just sending one fleet to rescue New Seoul. Earth was preparing for war on a scale the galaxy had never seen. Back on New Seoul, Governor Park tried to keep his people calm. The alien deadline was approaching, and panic was starting to spread. Some colonists wanted to surrender immediately. Others demanded they fight to the death. Most just wanted to go home to Earth. Park stood in the town square, addressing the crowd. "I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But I need you to trust me for a little longer. Help is coming." "How do you know?" shouted someone from the crowd. Park touched the quantum communicator hidden in his jacket. "Because we're not alone. We never were." Commander Kim watched from the military base as her pilots prepared their ships. They knew they were outgunned and outnumbered, but they were ready to fight anyway. Human pilots didn't surrender easily. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Yujin Oh from the communication station. "We're receiving a coded transmission from Earth Defense Command." Kim read the message and smiled for the first time in 2 days. "Pilots, stand down from combat alert. Maintain readiness but do not engage the alien fleet." "Ma'am," asked Captain Woo-Sung Lee, confused. "Because in 34 hours, those aliens are going to get the surprise of their lives." Above them, Admiral Vextar was growing impatient. The humans had been given enough time to make their choice. Soon he would demand an answer. If they refused to surrender, he would begin the bombardment. He did not know that his fleet was already doomed. He did not know that humanity's response was already in motion. He thought he was dealing with primitive colonists cut off from any help. The Confederation had made many mistakes over the centuries, but this would be their biggest. They had threatened humanity's children. They had demanded submission from a species that had never bowed to anyone. Soon, they would learn what happened when you cornered a predator. The galaxy was about to change forever. Admiral Vextar was enjoying his morning meal when his tactical officer burst into his quarters. The young alien's face was pale with shock, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "Sir, you need to come to the bridge immediately." Vextar sat down, his cup of bitter brew, and fixed the officer with a cold stare. "This better be important, Lieutenant. The humans have 6 hours left to surrender. Sir, we're detecting ships, human ships, lots of them." The Admiral's blood went cold. That was impossible. Earth was too far away. Even if the humans had somehow sent a message, it would take months for help to arrive. Unless Vextar ran to the bridge, his mind racing. The sight that greeted him there made his heart skip a beat. The main display showed 150 human warships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons already charged and ready for battle. "How is this possible?" Vextar whispered. His science officer checked the readings again. "Sir, the ships appear to be using some form of instant communication technology. They must have received word of our arrival and responded immediately. Vextar's hands shook as he gripped his command chair. The Confederation had encountered many species over the centuries, but none had ever responded this quickly. Most species couldn't even send messages faster than light, much less entire fleets. On the bridge of the Incheon, Admiral So Young Kang studied the enemy formation. The alien ships were arranged in a standard intimidation pattern, designed to look impressive rather than tactical. They had made the mistake of thinking humans would be easy prey. Fleet status? She asked her bridge crew. Captain Dong-hyun Lim checked his console. All ships in position, Admiral. Weapons charged and ready. Fighter squadrons prepared for launch. Enemy strength? 200 ships, various classes. Their weapons appear to be plasma-based, with some gravity manipulation technology. Our shields should be able to handle their attacks. Admiral Kang nodded. The human fleet was smaller, but their ships were newer and better armed. More importantly, human tactics were far superior to anything the aliens had seen before. "Open a channel to all enemy vessels," she commanded. The communication array crackled to life, broadcasting on all frequencies. Admiral Kang's voice echoed across space, reaching every ship in both fleets. "Confederation vessels, this is Admiral So Young Kang of the Earth Expeditionary Fleet. You are in violation of Colonial Sovereignty Protocol 7 Alpha. You have threatened human civilians and demanded their surrender. This is unacceptable." Vextar's translator struggled with the human language, but the meaning was clear. These humans were not here to negotiate. They were here to fight. "Human. Admiral," Vextar responded, his voice tight with anger. "You are outnumbered. My fleet has 200 ships. Surrender now, and I will allow your people to live as servants of the Confederation." Admiral Kang's laugh was cold as space itself. "Admiral, you seem to misunderstand the situation. You have threatened human children. You have demanded the surrender of people under Earth's protection. This ends now. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." "The consequences?" Vextar snarled. "I will show you consequences!" He turned to his weapons officer. "All ships, open fire, destroy them!" The Confederation fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma beams lanced through space, bright enough to blind the naked eye. Gravity. Bombs exploded in brilliant flashes, warping space itself. It was the same overwhelming attack that had crushed dozens of species before, but humans were different. The human ships scattered like a school of fish, their pilots executing maneuvers that should have been impossible. Instead of standing in formation to trade shots, they moved in 3 dimensions, using the entire battlefield. Commander Yejin-Oh led the electronic warfare division from her stealth frigate, while the aliens focused on the main fleet. Her ships slipped through their defenses unseen. With surgical precision, they began jamming alien communications, disrupting their targeting systems, and turning their own weapons against them. "Admiral, enemy communications are down," she reported. "They can't coordinate their attacks." Captain Dong-hyun Lim saw his opening. "All fighters launch! Execute pattern Gamma 7! Thousands of human fighter craft poured from the carrier. Ships. They moved like angry wasps, swarming around the larger alien vessels. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Their plasma cannons were too slow to track such small, fast targets. Lieutenant Yujin-Oh piloted her fighter through a maze of enemy fire. Her fusion missiles locked onto an alien battleship, targeting its weapon systems. Around her, dozens of other pilots did the same. The alien ship vanished in a cloud of explosions. But the real surprise was yet to come. Admiral Kang's flagship, the Incheon, was equipped with humanity's newest weapon. The fusion lance was a focused beam of pure energy that could cut through any known armor. It had never been tested in battle before. "Target the enemy flagship," Kang ordered. "Fire!" The fusion lance reached out across space like the finger of an angry god. It struck Vextar's ship dead center, punching through shields, armor, and hull like they were made of paper. The alien battleship broke in half, its reactor exploding in a ball of white fire. Vextar found himself floating in an escape pod, watching his mighty fleet fall apart. Human ships danced between his vessels, striking with impossible precision. Every shot found its target. Every maneuver put them in the perfect position to attack. The battle that was supposed to last days ended in 6 hours. Half the Confederation fleet was destroyed. The other half was either disabled or fleeing in panic. Not a single human ship had been lost. Admiral Kang opened communications with the surviving alien vessels. Her voice was calm, but her words carried the weight of absolute authority. Confederation fleet, this is your final warning. Withdraw from this system immediately. Take this message back to your leaders. Earth protects its own. Any further attacks on human colonies will be met with overwhelming force. She paused, letting the words sink in. Tell them this was humanity showing restraint. Next time we won't be so diplomatic. The remaining alien ships fled without a word, disappearing into hyperspace as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. On New Sol, the colonists watched the battle from their windows and rooftops. They saw the alien fleet that had threatened them for 3 days running away like frightened children. They saw human ships moving in perfect formation, their weapons silent now that the threat was gone. Governor Park stood in the town square, tears of relief streaming down his face. Around him, 50,000 people cheered and cried and hugged each other. They were safe. Earth had kept its promise. Commander Kim received a transmission from Admiral Kang. Colonial Defense Force, this is Admiral Kang. The threat has been neutralized. Your people are safe. Thank you, Admiral, Kim replied, her voice thick with emotion. We owe you everything. You owe us nothing, Kang responded. We protect our own. That's what families do. In space, the human fleet began rescue operations. They pulled alien survivors from escape pods and disabled ships, treating their wounds and giving them food and water. Many of the aliens were shocked by this kindness. They had expected to be killed or tortured. Dr. Sungmin Han, the colony's chief scientist, was allowed to examine some of the alien technology. What he found amazed him. The Confederation ships were powerful but crude. They relied on brute force rather than precision. Their weapons were impressive but wasteful. Their defenses were strong but inflexible. It's like they've been fighting the same way for centuries, he told Governor Park. They never had to adapt because they always faced weaker enemies. Park nodded. And now they've met someone stronger. The victory at New Sol sent shockwaves through human space. In every colony, on every world, people celebrated. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they had proven they could defend themselves. But on Earth, in the depths of the Solar Defense Command, Admiral Lee was planning for what came next. The Confederation would not give up after one defeat. They would send more ships, bigger fleets, deadlier weapons. Status of the other fleets? He asked Colonel Park. All 10 fleets are in position and ready for deployment. Admiral Song's 2nd Fleet has taken position near the Vega system. Admiral Park's 3rd Fleet is stationed at Wolf 359. The others are spread throughout our territory. Admiral Lee studied the tactical display. Red dots marked Confederation space, while blue dots showed human positions. Soon, those colors would clash across the galaxy. They'll come back, he said quietly. And when they do, we'll be ready. The Battle of New Sol was over, but the war was just beginning. Humanity had shown its strength, but they had also revealed their existence to a hostile galaxy. There would be no hiding anymore, no pretending to be weak. The Confederation had learned that threatening human civilians was a mistake. Soon, they would learn that declaring war on humanity was the biggest mistake they could ever make. In the depths of space, alien messages traveled toward the Confederation capital. They carried news of defeat, of human ships that moved like ghosts and struck like lightning. They told of weapons that could cut through any defense and tactics that no one had ever seen before. But most importantly, they carried a warning. Humanity was not just another primitive species to be conquered. They were something new, something dangerous. Supreme Chancellor Zixathara of the Galactic Trade Confederation had ruled for 50 years. In all that time, no species had ever defeated a Confederation enforcement fleet. Today, that perfect record lay in ruins. The emergency session of the High Council was chaos. Representatives from 12 different species shouted at each other in a dozen languages. Fear filled the great chamber like a poisonous gas. The humans had done the impossible and no one knew what it meant. Order! I will have order! Zixthara's voice boomed through the hall. The Supreme Chancellor was an ancient being, tall and thin, with skin like gray leather. Her 6 arms gestured for silence as her 3 eyes surveyed the room. Director Morgoth, report. The head of Confederation intelligence stepped forward. His species was known for their analytical minds and perfect memory. If anyone could explain what had happened at New Sol, it was him. Supreme Chancellor, the 3rd Enforcement Fleet encountered a human response force of 150 ships. The battle lasted 6 hours. Admiral Vextar's fleet was completely destroyed or scattered. We lost over 100 ships. Angry. Murmurs filled the chamber. Counselor Hexthul of the warrior caste slammed his fist on his desk. How is this possible? The humans are a primitive species. They have no fleet. That's where you're wrong, Morgoth replied coldly. The humans have been lying to us. Or rather, we have been lying to ourselves. He activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Images of human ships appeared, their sleek lines and powerful weapons clearly visible. The human fleet used technology we have never seen before. Their ships moved with impossible speed and precision. Their weapons cut through our shields like they were nothing. Their tactics were unlike anything in our databases. Zixathara leaned forward, her 3 eyes focusing on the display. You're saying they're more advanced than we thought? I'm saying they're more advanced than anyone thought. Look at this data. The display changed, showing energy readings and tactical analysis. Their ships use fusion-based weapons, but not like ours. These are focused energy beams that can punch through any known armor. Their defensive systems adapt to incoming fire in real time. Their fighters move like living creatures, not machines. Counselor Veltar of the Merchant Guild spoke up. His voice was nervous, shaking. But how did they get there so fast? Earth is 47 light-years from New Sol. Even with the fastest ships, it should take weeks to make that journey. Morgoth's expression grew darker. That's the truly disturbing part. Our analysis suggests they used some form of instant communication to coordinate the response. They may also have hidden bases throughout this sector. The chamber erupted in panic. Representatives shouted questions and accusations. Some demanded immediate war. Others called for peace negotiations. Fear made them all louder and more desperate. Zixthara raised her arms for silence. Director Morgoth, what do we know about human space? That's just it, Supreme Chancellor. We know almost nothing. Our scouts reported that humans occupied a single star system around a yellow star called Sol. We believed they were a young species, just beginning to explore space. He changed the display again, showing a map of local space. Red dots marked Confederation territory, while question marks showed areas where human activity had been detected. We were wrong. In the past 72 hours, our long-range sensors have detected human ships in at least 12 different star systems. They have colonies, bases, and fleets spread across 200 light-years. The silence that followed was the silence of the grave. Every council member understood what this meant. The Confederation had built its power on the assumption that they were the dominant force in this region of space. If the humans had been secretly building an empire, everything changed. How many ships do they have? Asked Counselor Dexmar of the Military Committee. Morgoth hesitated. Unknown. But our deep space monitoring stations have detected what appears to be multiple fleet formations moving through human space. We estimate at least 10 more fleets of similar size to the one that destroyed Admiral Vextar. 10 more fleets? Zixthara's voice was barely a whisper. That would be over 1,500 ships, at minimum. And Supreme Chancellor, there's something else. Something that makes this even worse. The Council held its breath. What could be worse than discovering a hidden human empire? The humans didn't just defeat our fleet. They rescued the survivors. Our people report being treated well, given medical care, fed, and returned safely. They showed mercy when they could have shown cruelty. Counselor Hexthul snorted in disgust. Weakness. They lack the killer instinct to finish what they start. No, Morgoth said firmly. Not weakness, control. They could have destroyed every ship, killed every survivor. Instead, they sent a message. They wanted our people to return and tell us what happened. The implications were terrifying. A species that could destroy their enemies but chose not to was more dangerous than one that simply killed everything in sight. It meant the humans were thinking, planning, preparing for something bigger. Meanwhile, on Earth, Fleet Admiral Tae-Young Lee was coordinating the largest military mobilization in human history. The victory at New Seoul had bought them time, but not much. The Confederation would respond, and when they did, humanity needed to be ready. "Status report on fleet deployments," he ordered. Colonel Park consulted his datapad. "Admiral Song's Second Fleet has taken position near the Vega system. They've deployed stealth mines throughout the sector. Admiral Park's Third Fleet is stationed at Wolf 359, ready for planetary assault operations if needed." Lee nodded, studying the tactical display. 11 fleets were now spread throughout human space, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. The First Fleet had proven that humans could fight. Now the other 10 would prove that humans could win wars. What about the industrial capacity? Shipyards at Mars, Europa, and Titan are running at maximum capacity. We're producing new ships, faster than ever before. The mining operations in the asteroid belt are providing all the raw materials we need. Lee smiled grimly. The Confederation thought they had encountered a single human fleet. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this war for 30 years. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic had been designed with one goal in mind: defeating a superior enemy through superior planning. Dr. Yoon-jung Choi entered the command center, carrying a datapad filled with intelligence reports. "Admiral, we're intercepting Confederation communications. They're in full panic mode." "What are they saying?" "They're trying to figure out how strong we really are. Their intelligence services are scrambling to assess our capabilities. Most importantly, they don't know about the other 10 fleets yet." Lee considered this information. The element of surprise was humanity's greatest advantage. As long as the Confederation believed they were only facing one fleet, they would underestimate human strength. How long before they discover the truth? Unknown. But based on their communication patterns, they're planning something big. Multiple fleet movements toward their capital. They're either preparing for a massive counterattack or getting ready to defend their home territory. President Min-ho. Yoon joined the conversation via quantum link from Washington. His image appeared on the main screen, his face serious but determined. "Admiral Lee, what's your assessment of the situation?" "Mr. President, the Confederation is scared. They're trying to understand what they're really facing. But they won't stay scared forever. Eventually they'll gather their courage and come for us in force." "How much force are we talking about?" Dr. Choi answered. "Based on our analysis of their territory and industrial capacity, they could potentially field over 2,000 ships. If they unite all their member species, they could outnumber us 3-1. The president was quiet for a moment. "Admiral, are we ready for that kind of fight?" Lee looked at the tactical display, at the positions of his 11 fleets. Each one was a weapon forged in the fires of human determination. Each one represented years of planning, building, and preparation. "Mr. President, the Confederation has spent 300 years conquering primitive species. They've grown soft, predictable. They rely on overwhelming force because they've never faced real resistance." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Humans have spent the same 300 years fighting each other. Every war, every battle, every conflict has taught us something new. We've learned to adapt, to evolve, to overcome any challenge." "That's not an answer, Admiral." Lee smiled. "Yes, Mr. President, we're ready. More than ready. When they come for us, they're going to learn what happens when you threaten humanity's children." Back in Confederation space, Supreme Chancellor Zix Thara was making the most important decision of her reign. The council had debated for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The humans were a threat that could not be ignored. "Director Morgoth, how long would it take to assemble our Grand Armada?" 6 months, Supreme Chancellor. Maybe 4 if we push our shipyards to maximum production. "Do it. Send orders to every member species. I want every ship, every weapon, every soldier they can spare. The humans have shown us that they're dangerous. It's time to show them that the Confederation is still the dominant power in this galaxy." As the orders went out across Confederation space, billions of beings began preparing. 6 months after the Battle of New Seoul, the largest fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of Confederation space. Supreme Chancellor Zix Thara stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as over 2,000 ships took their positions. 12 species had contributed vessels to the Grand Armada, and their combined might was awesome to behold. "Status report!" Zixthara commanded. Admiral Morgex, the Confederation's finest military commander, stepped forward. He was a veteran of 100 battles, a warrior who had never tasted defeat. Supreme Chancellor, all fleets are in position. 2,050 ships total. Every weapon system is operational. The humans cannot possibly stand against this force. Zixthara nodded, but doubt gnawed at her mind. The humans had already proven they were more dangerous than anyone expected. Still, numbers had to count for something. No species could field enough ships to match the Grand Armada. "Begin the advance," she ordered. "It's time to end this threat once and for all." The massive fleet began to move, crossing into the outer edge of human space. Their destination was Earth itself, the heart of human civilization. If they could capture or destroy humanity's home world, the war would be over. What they found waiting for them was beyond their worst nightmares. Fleet Admiral Tae-Young Lee stood on the bridge of the EFS Seoul, his flagship and the most powerful vessel ever built by human hands. Around him, 11 complete battle fleets stretched across 3 star systems. Nearly 1,700 ships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and determination. "Fleet status?" Lee asked. "Admiral So-Young Kang, commander of the 1st Fleet," responded from her position near Earth. "All fleets ready for battle, Admiral. Fighter squadrons launched and in position. All weapon systems charged." Admiral Jae-Won Song of the 2nd Fleet checked in next. "Electronic warfare systems online. We've identified their command frequencies and prepared countermeasures." One by one, all 11 fleet commanders reported their readiness. Each fleet had its own specialty, its own role to play in the coming battle. The 4th Fleet's planet-killer dreadnoughts. The 5th Fleet's carrier groups with their clouds of fighters. The 6th Fleet's missile boats that could saturate entire sectors with fire. But the real surprise was the formation itself. Instead of clustering together for mutual support, the human fleets were spread across multiple star systems. They controlled the space between the Confederation fleet and Earth, forcing the enemy to fight on human terms. "Admiral," called Captain Dong-Hyun Lim from the tactical station. "Enemy fleet has entered the Proxima system. They're moving in standard battle formation." Lee smiled. The Confederation was making the same mistake they always made. They relied on overwhelming force applied in the most direct way possible. It had worked against primitive species, but humans were not primitive. "Signal all fleets," Lee commanded. "Execute Operation Thunderstorm." Across 3 star systems, human ships began to move. They didn't charge forward like traditional fleets. Instead, they flowed like water, surrounding the enemy formation from all sides. The Confederation found themselves facing attacks from directions they hadn't even considered. Admiral Morgex stared at his tactical display in confusion. "How are they doing this? Their ships are everywhere at once." His tactical officer struggled to track the human movements. "Sir, they're using micro-jump technology. Short hyperspace hops that let them reposition instantly. We can't predict where they'll appear next." The first human attack came from Admiral Park's 3rd Fleet. Her assault carriers launched thousands of fighters that swarmed over the Confederation's outer ships. The alien point defense systems couldn't track so many small, fast targets. Commander Yejin O led her squadron through the chaos, her fusion missiles finding their targets with deadly precision. Around her, human pilots worked with the coordination of a hive mind, each one supporting the others in a deadly dance of destruction. But the fighters were just the beginning. Admiral Song's 2nd Fleet specialized in electronic warfare, and they struck next. Invisible signals reached out across space, infiltrating alien computer systems and turning their own weapons against them. Confederation ships suddenly found their missiles targeting their own allies, their shields dropping without warning. "What's happening to our systems?" Morgex demanded. "Unknown, sir. Our computers are being attacked, but we can't locate the source." The source was all around them. Human stealth ships, invisible to conventional sensors, moved through the battle like ghosts. They planted viruses in enemy systems, jammed communications, and created chaos in the alien ranks. Then Admiral Kang's 1st Fleet struck from the front. The fusion lance weapons that had destroyed Admiral Vextar's flagship at New Seoul now targeted the Confederation's largest ships. Beams of pure energy reached across the void, cutting through shields and armor like they were made of paper. But the most devastating attack came from an unexpected direction. Admiral Chang Soo-yoon's 7th Fleet had positioned itself behind. a nearby moon hidden from view. When they emerged, they brought with them humanity's newest weapon, gravity bombs that could tear apart entire ship formations. The Confederation fleet began to fall apart. Ships collided as their navigation systems failed. Weapons exploded when their targeting computers turned against them. Communications broke down as human jammers filled the airwaves with noise. Supreme Chancellor Zix Thara watched her Grand Armada disintegrate before her eyes. "This is impossible! No species fights like this!" Admiral Morgex was trying to maintain some kind of order, but it was hopeless. "Supreme Chancellor, we need to retreat. We're losing ships faster than we can count them." "No, we have superior numbers. We must press the attack." But numbers meant nothing when you couldn't coordinate them. The Confederation fleet was like a giant with its brain removed, powerful but unable to think or plan. The human fleets moved with perfect coordination, each one supporting the others in a symphony of destruction. Dr. Sung-Min Han, now serving as a scientific advisor aboard the Seoul, watched the battle with fascination. "Admiral, look at their formation. They're still trying to fight like it's 300 years ago. Mass formations, direct confrontation, overwhelming force." Admiral Lee nodded. "They've been winning for so long that they forgot how to adapt. We've been losing for so long that we had to learn." The battle raged for 3 days. When it ended, over half the Confederation fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest were in full retreat, racing back toward their own territory. Not a single human capital ship had been lost. As the alien survivors fled, Admiral Lee opened communications on all frequencies. His voice reached every ship in both fleets, and through quantum relay, every world in human space. "This is Fleet Admiral Tae-Young Lee of the Earth Defense Force. To the Confederation fleet. You came here to destroy our home, to enslave our people, to end our civilization. Instead, you have learned what happens when you threaten humanity's children." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Return to your leaders. Tell them that Earth offers them one chance for peace. Recognize human sovereignty. Pay reparations for the attack on New Seoul. Withdraw all forces from human space. These terms are not negotiable." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. On New Seoul, Governor Hyun-Woo Park stood in the same square where he had tried to calm his people 6 months ago. This time, the mood was very different. 50,000 colonists cheered and celebrated as news of Earth's victory spread across the colony. Commander Kim watched from the military base, tears of pride streaming down her face. Her 12 patrol ships had been ready to die defending this world. Instead, Earth had sent 11 fleets to defend it. That was what it meant to be human. That was what it meant to be family. 3 weeks later, a single Confederation ship approached Earth. It carried no weapons, only a white flag, and a delegation of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. Supreme Chancellor Zix Thara herself came to surrender, her pride broken by the devastating defeat. The ceremony took place on New Seoul, in the same system where the war had begun. It seemed fitting that the place where humanity had been threatened would be the place where humanity's dominance was recognized. President Min Ho-yoon stood before the assembled delegates, his words broadcast to every world in human space. "Today, we establish a new order in this galaxy. An order based on respect, not fear. On cooperation, not conquest." But his next words carried a warning that no one would forget. "Let this serve as a lesson to any who would threaten human civilians. We are not a species that believes in proportional response. We believe in overwhelming response." The Confederation signed the treaty with shaking hands. They agreed to every human demand, paid massive reparations, and acknowledged Earth as the sector's dominant power. They had no choice. Their Grand Armada lay in ruins, and humanity's 11 fleets still controlled the space between their territory and Earth. As the alien delegates departed, Admiral Lee stood with Dr. Choi on the observation deck of the Seoul. They watched the last Confederation ship disappear into hyperspace, carrying news of humanity's victory to every corner of the galaxy. "So what now?" Dr. Choi asked. "We're the dominant power in this sector. What do we do with that responsibility?" Lee considered the question.